Okay, so before I dive in to do my flip through of my most recent junk journal book, I wanted to just show you a couple of the items that I used for this junk journal. So one is just some regular junk mail envelopes. You'll see that I used a ton of these. So I'm really drawn to this pattern on, like, the variety of patterns on the envelopes that show up to my mailbox that are these junk journal essentials for me. And there is just so much that you can do with a junk journal. With a junk envelope like this that comes in the mail. I have a Fiskars paper cutter that I use. I would really like to upgrade to one that has the guillotine feature on it, but for now this is working just fine. I might need to replace this little piece right here, but for now this is working okay. I also just used some regular Elmer's glue and Tombow tape runner, which was super helpful. And to stick on a color theme, I used this same washi tape throughout my experience of decorating my pages. I decided to keep it very much selected in this color theme. So I also used a colored pencil that I got out of my stash, and I have been playing around with this Distress ink in a dried marigold color. I'm not a huge fan of that antique look that a lot of junk journalers are drawn to, which I love it for them. It's just not for me. I'm way more interested in color. And so once I kind of picked this color theme that I was going for, which included these greens and yellows, I decided to just really stick with that for the duration of my junk journal that I made. The other thing I wanted to just point out is that I found this, actually my sister bought me this really fun magazine paper. It's actually quite a nice paper. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's like scrapbooking paper that have images of fruits and vegetables and other plants on one side, but then it has these really beautiful patterns that look like wallpaper to me, decorative patterns that make for some really nice inner pages for my junk journal. So I used this botanical art magazine that my sister actually got us for our beginning of the year vision boarding, which was so great. And then I picked up this really beautiful book of stickers that I found at a local bookshop nearby, and I just love this. So it's got these really beautifully illustrated flora and fauna elements in different color backgrounds, and I ended up using quite a few. You'll see I hadn't used this at all for any other projects. I used quite a few of these to have a bit of cohesiveness throughout the junk journal as I was pulling it together. So after I do this flip through, I'd be interested in hearing if you are wanting to see me do a junk journal from beginning to end, if you'd be interested in seeing how I put it all together. So yeah, just let me know. I love how some of these have a huge giant sticker that can be just put in the middle of something, takes up a really big amount of space. I really appreciate that. like this one. This is just one sticker. Isn't that so cool? So I feel like this is going to be like a source of a lot of inspiration for my junk journaling that I'm doing. And I am really going through like my mail and finding ways to try to use up these envelopes that I have collected. Okay, so hopefully you could see that flip through. Okay, I'm gonna keep this right here so that it's in the frame. So this is my junk journal. I think that I had written down my dimensions. I wanted to do kind of like 4 by 6 pages size. And then I cut the cover just a slightly bigger than my pages on the inside. And you can see that I repurposed a LaCroix tag board cover. And I made a mistake, which is so good for like this process so that I know what I'm doing. And the mistake is that I put the tie on the inside of this cover when it should really be affixed to the outer side of the cover, but I didn't really want to mess with decorating the cover at all. I want to like leave that to the person that I'm going to gift this to. So I didn't want to have that yarn sticking out here, but I can close it, and I'm assuming gonna get fatter as the person works in this journal, so it's okay. I've been having something sitting on this to keep it kind of less floppy open, but as you can see, it's really difficult to like tie this together and keep it cinched because I chose to place those ties on the inside here, and it's also like pulling up the inner paper that I put on here to try to decorate the inside of this tag board. So, you know, live and learn. Don't do that mistake that I did, and you'll be fine. So let's go ahead and get into this. I want to just make sure that you can see this whole thing here. Yeah, okay. So, oh, one other thing that I used before I dive in, this is reminding me, I had found this book from the library that was in the free pile, actually, and it's called Flower Fabrications. And the reason why I liked this is because I really enjoyed the paper. It's a really nice thick paper that feels really nice and will be really easy to write on in a variety of pens for whoever is choosing to use this. But I also really enjoyed that it had these illustrations throughout. This is a book that is about paper crafting flowers. And so there's all kinds of illustrations throughout the book that I just thought would be really fun to pull out for junk journaling purposes. And in between the chapters, there's these green pages that have a nice line drawing on them. And so I just really thought that this was going to make for nice junking. And then, like, look at how fun this is going to be to put into some junk journals. I also like that there's this decorative edge on the number. I don't know what that is. Is it like a flower with a stem or something? But it just really kind of helps keep this together. And so actually this green was part of what inspired this color scheme as well as I was pulling together this junk journal. So if you're somebody who's like trying to figure out how do I make something look aesthetically nice, kind of limiting your color palette can be a really nice start to doing that, I find. And so I decided to go with greens and yellows and some pops of other colors, but mostly just sticking with the green and the yellow to make this particular junk journal. So after saying that, this is the journal. I decided to sew it together. So you can see here, this is the inner seam of the book all of my, what do you call this, signatures are sewn down into the cover. And I found that my sewing machine did just fine running through this to put that all together. You can see that I also included a marker for the page. And so let me just like flip through this really quick. So I have a little bit of a collage moment in the first spread where I just kind of wrote a little "This Journal Belongs To" with that green colored pencil. Maybe you could use pen, whatever you want. Added this little leaf, and I have this room for journaling up here and this room down here for collage. I also pasted this repurposed envelope in here, and you can see that I have a little note that says "Open Me." So if you flip the flap up, you can see that I've included one of the pages from that Art of the Forest sticker book in for the person who I'm gifting this to be able to have and enjoy for themselves. I also tucked in some other like little note cards and things, an inspirational postcard that I received that has some room for writing on the back, a coloring card that I cut up a piece of paper out of a coloring book, an additional piece of lined notepad paper, and I'm not sure what is in here, but oh, another little kind of cardstocky card that I thought would be nice if they wanted to add any more envelope areas, slats, hinges, or whatever in their junk journal, and they wanted to add it to a page that could use something like this. So I just wanted to give them a chance to be able to play in this junk journal as well. So I'm gonna just tuck this back in here. You can see that this is a little bit too big, so I just have that tucked in here. And originally I had this taped down, but I had these two pieces that didn't fit anywhere else, so I just kind of tucked them in. So you will see that I chose to do a lot of collaging of areas for writing while also keeping my illustrated areas available for gazing upon, I guess. I don't know. I've never used a junk journal like this to like actually journal. I have been using a junk journal that I made myself to track my travels, but it is less aesthetically curated and more like a true junk journal. Like I repurposed a ton of pages that were just gonna go into the trash or recycle, instead of creating these opportunities where you can like actually do journaling on here. So I have a lot of little cards that tuck into envelopes and things, and other slats that you'll see pop up throughout the junk journal. But if you noticed, you can access this little half page from either side, and then I did some cutouts so it was clear that you could just pull this out of here and write on it if you wanted to. I like to have this sticking up here so that you know that it's something that you can pull out. And you'll see that I use some back of pages and things and that washi tape to just kind of create this cohesive aesthetic throughout. This is one of the pages that I showed you from that botanical magazine, and here's the back. That just is kind of a nice blank page for collage or writing or whatever the person is going to want to do with these pages. This is the back of an envelope that I actually just used a ruler to create lines on so that it could become a writing surface. And you can see that I cut out or tore an illustration from that book to just add a little something down here in the corner. Again, this is just like a page that can be used for whatever. This is the inside of one of those security envelopes that had a window in it, and you can see that the rest of that envelope is over here. So this is it extending over into this area where it's serving as a window into another portion of the junk journal. So before we get ahead of ourselves, let's keep looking at some of the other things that I've worked on here. So here again is one of those stickers and a little bit of decor that I've added to this window for causing like a peek through effect here, which is one of my favorite ways of using these security envelope windows. And I don't mind that this kind of comes into the window. I think it makes some interesting visual effects. And then I've just put in a little bit of a pocket for another piece of decorated page, cardboard, tagboard that someone could pull out and write a note on. And you can see that this is from that paper, from that book that I rescued from the free pile at the library. I'm really happy with that find. I've been looking for something cool like this, and it just makes for such a fun, like, additional element of this particular junk journal that I'm going to keep playing with as I use up that book. This is just a little bit of a collage moment from some of that paper that I rescued. And here you'll see another style of security envelope where you have the two windows that are peeking in to an illustration from the book once again. So again, I'm not sure like how useful this is as an actual journal, but I guess that'll be up to the person I gift it to be creative and like keep collaging or taping in their own things, making more pockets so that they can write on more surfaces. I really love how the back side of this green chapter divider is completely blank. So that is such a nice blank page, but I also like not having so many blank pages because sometimes at the beginning of a journal, I find that it can be really hard to figure out what to put in my journals. If I have blank pages like this, I'd much rather be responding to something on the page as I sketch or write or record some of the things that have been happening in my day. So yeah, you'll see here's another piece of that book that I have put in here, and I chose not to write anything, or sorry, cover this writing, just because again, I wanted to leave this up to the person I'm gifting this to decide how are they going to use this junk journal so that they have some choices in the matter. But once you get through those kind of inner signatures, there's another little pocket here where I have included a little bit of a different color green cardstock with an illustration from that book that I've pasted on here and some colored in security pages scrap. So you can see that I am really trying to take advantage of all of the little scraps that happen when you're junk journaling, and you'll see that this is a part of a yellow envelope that probably did come off of this envelope that I stuck into the junk journal. Here's another back of an envelope where I have covered something up. There was probably some writing here or printing on the envelope, and so I covered it up with just this simple paper circle, and I made the lines so that if somebody wanted to use this, they definitely could write just directly on this page. Here's using the back side of the Botanical magazine to kind of cover up and strengthen this page of the back of an envelope. Which brings us into this area, which I just love. I picked up this little pad of paper from a hotel I stayed in recently, and I just really loved that it was lined. I covered up the logo with this chickadee sticker, but I also really like that I made a flip over flap here so that there's room to do something here, but also to do some writing up here. I wanted to give some different elements and some different ways of perhaps interacting with the junk journal. And so here I have this like flip out moment where you could either take this out to write on, or you could write here and keep going. There's all kinds of options, and I really like these delicate little paper clips that give a little bit of additional flair. You can see that I used a punch cutout from a different piece of scrap paper that was made when I used my punch, and I just taped it down with that polka dot washi tape that really works well with the stripes and other black and white designs from those security envelopes. This page again is another opportunity to see kind of a flap in motion. So here we have a little peekaboo into this area. If this is open on this page, if it's open on this page, it's giving you this illustration moment, peek through. So that's just really kind of fun, just a little element to have here. And here's another little card that I put in here just from like a fundraising effort that somebody had mailed me, and I used an illustration from the book by doing a very close X-Acto cut out of the image to make that really kind of fun edge, and glued this in, but used this to kind of hold it down to make a little bit of a band for this to just sit into. And then again, decorated this a little bit just so that there's some more room to write on and some area to explore and just play with. Here's another backside of some of those botanical elements, and this is the other part of that envelope that I shared that I had cut off. You can see there's another little card here where I had glued on some additional writing space on the back of a piece of paper that had writing on it, and I added another little paper ephemera element here to some of the blank space. So there's opportunities to write everywhere on this thing, making a little list, writing inside here. I pulled a quote from the book itself and pasted it in here. I thought it was just kind of fun. And you can see that I used a pair of paper edger scissors to make that edge around here. And that was fun. I picked these up for $1 at the thrift store. And I used my Distress ink in that marigold color to decorate the edge of that. I don't know if I like that look, but I'm just experimenting right now. So you could see like I could have chosen to do that in all these other areas, and maybe I would have liked that, or maybe doing it on the edge of the papers themselves. But maybe for the next one, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about that. And then at the end of the book, I just have a little pocket that I made out of an envelope, and I included some additional ephemera to use as the person I'm going to give this to would like. And so I just made like a little bit of a pocket here where I put lots of little scraps if they want to do any collaging or pull in other elements of the junk journal into other pages. So I've included scraps from some of the papers that I used so that they can choose to do what they would like to do with any of these small little pieces as they're journaling and pasting things, or, you know, playing in this junk journal. So that is the tour. I'm just gonna put this back in here. That is basically the extent of what I have done here. Just gotta get this in here. There's this like one part that's like really hard to get past, and sometimes if you are in the wrong part, it won't let you keep going. It's getting hung up like right here. So there we go. That's kind of the end of the flip through here. So this is my first junk journal that I've made for somebody else that is really in this aesthetic style. And so I just wanted to share that this is something that's been going on in my studio. I've been really enjoying the thrill of paper crafting, and mostly repurposing and keeping things out of the landfill has been my goal. And so that is what I have been up to lately. I wonder if I somehow keep this closed, if I can somehow get this tie to work a little bit better. Yeah, that does seem to help. All right, I'll tell the person, like, if you have a clip, use the clip to keep it clipped as you're tying it back together. So, I hope you enjoyed this journey through my junk journal with me, my flip through, and as always, let me know if you would like me to do a full journal with me and kind of capture every step along the way as I pull together my next one. All right, take care.